anywhere, or else you will be lost forever. Let go of me!
He said let go of him.
Directed by Michael Winnick, we are talking Disquiet. And this one stars Jonathan Rhys Meyers as Sam. Now this is a horror movie set in a hospital. And I have to tell you, I love a horror movie set in a hospital. I think it makes it for a particularly kind of spooky experience for the most part. What's this film all about? Well, it focuses on the character of Sam, who is a guy with a busy lifestyle that ends up getting in a car accident and being taken to hospital. He wakes up in hospital and it seems a little strange, you might say. He's immediately attacked by a guy who seems to be in a coma, wakes up with a coma and attacks him. Outside of that, the hospital seems like more or less abandoned, apart from a few kind of handful of people, some of which seem to be in a situation very much like him, other people who have woken up in hospital. But there seems to be others that are a little on the off side, you might say. We have a couple of situations where these people have kind of like weird messed up faces, kind of trying to kill whoever they can. And it's all a little bit strange. And what's going on? Well, you have to watch the movie and find out. So, does that movie sound confusing to you? If the answer is yes, then well, you're probably not alone. Because this is a little bit of a kind of like what's going on sort of style movie, or you know, what is actually the situation here. We won't reveal it to you until kind of towards the end of the movie, so do bear that in mind when you do watch this. So let's talk about it. Like I said, I think a setting in a hospital is a great setting for a horror movie, because I do think it lends itself to, you know, you imagine the amount of people that have kind of died in these places, and you know, you can imagine it's full of, you know, ghosts and ghoulies and things like that. This one reminds me a little bit of a movie I watched quite recently called Dark Floors, where again that was set in a hospital, and it's kind of like almost like a parallel dimension where it's all kind of abandoned outside of a handful of people. So it's kind of similar to Dark Floors in some ways, if you have seen that. I think Jonathan Rhys Meyers is pretty good in this role. You know, he's very much of a kind of middle of the road sort of style guy. They're not painting him to be a particularly kind of virtuous type of character, but he's also not typically a kind of a bad guy throughout. I think it's partly the whole point of the film here is that this movie offers a depiction of moral choices, you might say. Moral choices, and you know, some things that will tell you to take a negative path, some things that will tell you a positive path. And in regards to how that affects the movie, you have to kind of watch and find out. But there is an element of that there. I've got to say, I think everyone here, in regards to kind of the acting, did a pretty good job. I was quite interested in all the characters, and we do get the cast does kind of fill out with a kind of a good amount of characters. All of them have kind of slightly different kind of situations in regards to what's happened to them and who they are and things like this. The movie has themes of, you know, choices that you make in life, how they echo and things like this. There are some sort of loftier ideas at play here. As I said, the moral kind of dilemma that we might face on a kind of a day-by-day basis, and how that kind of, the repercussions kind of from that, you know, being able to trust people, all that sort of thing. So there is a variety of moral quandaries that these characters have to kind of face through the kind of movie, which I thought it made it kind of quite interesting. And I have to say, there are some disconcerting scenes. It never goes on full on kind of like creature feature or anything like that. But there are a couple of kind of creepier scenes here, and kind of like, you know, some fun ideas in regards to these kind of like denizens that may be wandering around this kind of hotel with kind of messed up faces, and what's kind of going on, and you know, the whole concept of good and evil and things like this. And it's, you know, it looks like it's filmed in a hospital, where it's a set very much, you know, looks like the part and things like this. So I have to say, it looks and feels like it was genuinely filmed in a place like this. And as such, the cinematography, I think, works quite well. You know, we have the kind of all the hospital lights kind of giving you the flickering kind of like something's not quite right here. And you know, overall, you know, it's a relatively kind of fast-paced movie. I didn't think it really was too slowed down at any point. So yeah, I thought it was relatively kind of well sort of put together in regards like that. What it isn't well put together in, however, I think it's a little bit confused. Not completely. I feel most people will get the general gist of the idea here. However, I think there will be questions that are still answered, even with me, you know, where the movie ends up. I thought something else was going to happen, and when it transpires what does happen, I was like, I'm not quite sure what I was watching then in that case. So I don't think the movie is particularly kind of like takes the viewer on a ride with them. It's very much like we have this mystery, we don't know what's kind of going on, you know, and we will reveal things, but I don't know if it really did a good job of kind of taking you on that journey, because I think it still is a little confused. And reading some reactions to this movie, that was the general idea I got from other people as well, so it isn't just me. You know, I do think it makes kind of some idea, you give you some idea of what's kind of going on, but even so, I still think people might get a little lost in here. It does lack a little bit in kind of overt horror elements here. I mean, there are some elements like these kind of orderlies and things up with messed up kind of faces, but I feel it didn't go quite far enough with kind of like a overt visual spookiness, if you know what I mean. And there are some elements which I think were interesting, but it looks a little silly at times. And we have, for example, these three women that are we meant to believe kind of spirits of people, is the best way I'd describe it, that's spoiled anything, who have had some type of cosmetic surgery, and it's a little bit laughable, if I'm completely honest. It's kind of like, this looks really silly. There was an opportunity here, I think, to make this movie genuinely unsettling, and it has a couple of kind of, like I said, there's a couple of moments where I think it kind of borders on being a little bit creepy, but it never really goes kind of full hog. And although the movie is kind of relatively well paced, you don't get a whole lot of forward momentum in regards to any sort of conclusions in the kind of the story and what's kind of like. It's more or less running around like headless chickens, having various kind of misadventures without really kind of knowing what's kind of going on. But I didn't dislike this movie, I have to say. I thought you know, Jonathan Rhys Meyers as Sam made a kind of a likeable character. Some of the kind of the interactions I didn't feel flowed particularly kind of naturally, and you know, the dialogue seemed like you wouldn't really kind of say things like this, but you know, the acting was okay, so I thought that was, you know, it is what it is for a film, you know, a lower budget kind of horror film and what have you. So I think this movie was kind of watchable. I didn't have a bad time with it. I quite enjoyed it. I didn't completely kind of get what the filmmakers were trying to kind of say here, but it was okay. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.